Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Kidnapped RCMP talked about what they had experienced lately, multiple countries want an Israeli bombing that killed innocents investigated, and Vancouver Coastal Health finally has a place to build an overdose prevention site.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond. A burn ban was recently put into place covering the entirety of the Bulkley and Nadina fire zones, which includes the likes of the Skeena/Stikine forecast district, as well as the town of Smithers. The ban means that Category 2 and 3 open burns are no longer allowed in the previously mentioned areas, and that means the use of burn barrels, sky lanterns, in addition to fireworks cannot be used. However, those who wish to create campfires less than half a meter wide and less than half a meter tall, and any cooking stoves that run on propane, gas, or briquettes can still be used legally. The given reason for the ban put by the BC Wildfire Service is so that the likelihood of human-caused wildfires goes down a significant amount. In some airport-related news, pilots working for WestJet Encore may end up going on strike as soon as April 17th due to them currently being the lowest-paid regional pilots in the entire country of Canada. And with WestJet being a frequently used airline that flies in and out of the Northwest Terrace Regional Airport, it could end up seriously affecting the flight plans of many local residents in the near and possibly distant future, depending on if this potential strike lasts a while. The pilots have reportedly voted 97% in favor of strike authorization after their talks about contract details like schedules, payment, as well as career progression were halted. All 355 of those pilots can take their leave from their respective tarmacs at around 72 hours after a strike notice gets posted, but for now it remains to be seen if an agreement can be reached before it gets to that point. Not too long ago, the Kidnapped RCMP put out an article that revealed some of the events that they dealt with during the last week or so of March. One of the reported incidents saw the police get word of a disturbance happening on the 200 block of City Center really early in the morning. When officers investigated, they discovered an intoxicated male and arrested him for causing a public disturbance and public intoxication. But he got released after spending a night in the cells. And a different part of the release saw the RCMP remind BC drivers that they are required to slow down and move over for any vehicles stopped on the side of the road that have flashing red, blue, or yellow lights. Those kinds of vehicles will typically include the likes of police, firefighters, tow trucks, ambulances, and other various roadside workers. Countries around the world are calling for a full investigation into the killing of 7 aid workers in an Israeli strike in Gaza. That includes Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister.
We want to make sure that Israel looks directly into this issue. I've reached out last night to Israel Katz, my Israeli counterpart, on this very issue. Israel needs to respect international humanitarian law, and we will make sure that that is the case.
The aid organization World Central Kitchen has now identified the victims, including a dual Canadian-U.S. citizen named Jacob Flickinger. 3 British nationals, an Australian, a Polish national, as well as a Palestinian were also killed. The aid group suspended operations in Gaza following the attack. Israel's prime minister says officials are investigating the deaths to ensure nothing like this happens again.
It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened. This incident was a grave mistake. Israel is at a war with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza.
A convoy of ambulances recently carried the bodies of the deceased aid workers left Gaza through the Rafah border crossing. Coming up next, BC is calling for an item that they haven't needed help with for a long time. Welcome back. Facing massive growing demand for electricity, the province is putting out its first call for power in 15 years. As CTV's Rob Buffett reports, the successful bids will likely be wind and solar powered and will involve First Nations ownership.
As BC moves towards greater reliance on electricity, including lofty goals of all sales of new cars being electric by 2035, The province is seeking help meeting that growing demand.
British Columbians, they need reliable power. They need to know they can flick the lights on, everything's going to work.
Even with Site C Dam set to start producing power later this year and be at full capacity by the end of next year, the province predicts 15% more electrical power is needed by 2030. So it's seeking bids from private companies to produce enough energy for 270,000 homes or 1 million electric vehicles annually. Those new projects, primarily solar or wind power to guard against more droughts.
We know that BC will continue to see more extreme weather conditions in the years to come. And that's why it's important that we diversify.
The projects are touted as creating more than 800 jobs. Winning bids will require at least 25% ownership by First Nations, part of the province's reconciliation efforts.
For the First Nations communities who will have a successful bid, it's going to be transformative. It's going to be long-term revenue and jobs.
A population growth of 1 million people by 2032, along with increasing electrification in industry and homes with heat pumps, is driving the demand. The opposition says excessive reliance on electrification is unrealistic.
The latest cold snap we had, 2/3 of the energy of British Columbia was consumed by natural gas. We're still going to have cold snaps in 2030.
The minister responsible pledges rates won't go up for consumers beyond inflation, despite growing demand and uncertainty posed by drought conditions that forced the province to import electricity this year and last.
Not to see a rise in rates above the cumulative rate of inflation, and that's a commitment that we're making to British Columbians.
The first bids are expected to be powering homes and vehicles across BC by 2028. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
The NDP government introduced legislation which will tax home flipping starting next year. CTV's Martin McMahon has more, with some critics already questioning if this will make a difference.
The BC government's anti-flipping tax is aimed at people who buy homes and then sell them within 2 years.
We don't think families should have to compete against speculators when they are making such an important decision. So we are making profiteers think twice about their flipping behavior.
Initially announced in February's budget, it will impose a 20% tax on profits of homes sold within a year of purchase. But you're in the clear after 2 years of ownership. It's welcome news to the Condominium Homeowners Association.
Simply put, speculators are often more interested in profit and not necessarily what is in the best interest of the strata corporation. The result is they often vote against needed repair and maintenance or an increase in strata fees.
Critics argue the policy won't do much for affordability, given the government only anticipates 4,000 flips in the first year the tax is in effect.
It's just a very small share of the market, especially right now when things are a little slower. So I don't expect we're going to see much of an impact. There's not a lot of flipping activity happening right now.
What people expect when they hear these types of taxes titles is the end result to be delivered on what they're talking about. In this case, it's probably not going to deliver certainly any more housing units onto the market. It's not going to do much to address affordability.
But the government insists this is just one piece in a larger housing affordability strategy.
7% of transactions in the last 2 years on average have been what we would call speculation and would be captured by the flipping tax. And that's significant. Not one measure is going to address housing crisis overall.
There are exemptions, including for divorce, death, illness, and relocation for work. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
After months of uncertainty, Vancouver Coastal Health finally secured a location for a downtown overdose prevention site. The OPS at Yaletown faced pushback from neighbors and even started a legal battle. But as CTV's Isabella Zavarisi reports, the health provider believes the new location will be a better fit.
One strap at a time, these tents went up quickly, but finding a new location for the Thomas Donaghy overdose prevention site took time. Vancouver Coastal Health, which oversees it, spent months securing a site.
We're committed to offering these services because we know they save lives.
In July, the City of Vancouver announced it would not be renewing the lease of the previous location at 1101 Seymour Street. Some neighbors complained to the city about cleanliness and crime. A proposed class action has also been filed.
We've said all along that our problem is not with harm reduction or overdose prevention. They're important measures. but it was just how things were operated at this location.
What we know about the studies done about these types of sites is that they do improve community order by having less public drug use, less public overdoses, and less public deaths.
The new location opens today and is on the 1000 block of Howe Street behind a social housing complex. It's not street-facing and offers outdoor supervised inhalation services.
We think it will provide a bit more of a discreet location for the people using the service.
Neighbors say they understand the complex challenges in operating such a site.
The more that we kind of push others' problem elsewhere, then there will be more people on the street overdosing.
But I do think you need to take the residents into consideration when opening up in this particular area. But at the end of the day, people need help, and there's only so much room in an area.
VCH says it was important to keep the OPS in this part of the city because it has the second highest overdose mortality rate.
We know that people don't travel far for these locations, for these services, and basically, if people don't go to these services, they don't work.
VCH says it wants to be a good neighbor in this new location while offering a life-saving service. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is likely to be partly cloudy with a low close to 1 degree. The Terrace Kitimat area should deal with a few clouds of its own, but have its low at -1 degree. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will also see its own few clouds while it deals with a low of -13 degrees. On the north coast, the upcoming week will consist of basically just rain and get a high settling pretty much only at 7 degrees. In the Terrace Kitimat area, their next week or so should see mainly rain, but also possibly some snow and flurries with their high only shifting from 9 to 8 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them will likely deal with an ever-flowing mix of sun, clouds, and rain, while the high moves from 10 to 6 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there are slippery sections, utility work, bridge maintenance, and road sweeping, plus the Usk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 37 has some slippery sections too, while also having maintenance frost heaves and a vehicle incident. 37A has maintenance as well. Some more slippery sections on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery and muddy sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the View of the Province's highway cams. Still to come is a report that looks at the still lingering effects of the pandemic on businesses. Welcome back. 4 years after COVID shut the world down, economic recovery for the pandemic is still ongoing, and that's reflected in the annual State of Downtown report. CTV's Ben Milger with more on what is and isn't working for businesses.
More people made a trip to downtown Vancouver in 2023 than 2019, the last year before the pandemic temporarily turned the city's core into a ghost town. That's according to this year's State of Downtown report from the Business Association.
But they're not coming in as often, and we attribute that mostly to the hybrid work culture. So in 2019, they were coming in, but they were coming in for 5 days of work. Now they're coming in for 2, 3, and hopefully 4.
It's reflected in the office vacancy rate of 9.4%, as some businesses have closed downtown offices altogether in favor of having staff work from home. Fewer workers in the core impacts a variety of businesses, but maybe none more than those in the restaurant industry, where many establishments continue to break even or lose money month over month.
We're seeing people are going out, but they're buying differently, they're buying down. So they're tending maybe to go to happy hours, maybe sharing a meal, maybe having one less cocktail because they're being mindful of their own budgets.
With warmer weather upon us, those in the industry hope a strong patio season can help reverse their fortunes. Peak tourism season should boost hotel occupancy as well. It was 79% last year, almost exactly on par with pre-pandemic levels.
And that's critically important because that sector touches so many other sectors. So very important. Related to that, of course, is our cruise ship industry. Record year in 2023, and we expect a similar year in 2024.
The Business Association plans a number of outdoor events and street activations this summer to draw tourists and locals alike and create more foot traffic for businesses. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
There's a desperate search for survivors in Taiwan, where its strongest earthquake in a quarter-century killed at least 9 people. It's raising questions about if BC is prepared for what some experts are calling an inevitable situation. CTV's Abigail Turner with more now.
As buildings came toppling down in Taiwan,
the building started shaking really violently, and in the moment that I start seeing things gushing out of my closets, including kitchen cabinets.
Vancouver's Charlie Wu sat in his 12th floor condo hoping his wouldn't be next.
It was a moment of darkness, and you reflect on your life.
A terrifying moment for those in Taiwan, but also for those in Vancouver with family overseas.
I received a phone call during the shaking. And the phone call was indicating this is a strong one, a very strong one.
Tony Yang, who lives in Vancouver, got a call from his sister during the quake. Luckily, she is safe.
I immediately getting pictures from the phone, what happened.
The deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake killed 9 people, injuring more than 1,000. 2 Canadians have been reported stranded by a rock slide. Yang, who is a leader in earthquake engineering at UBC, credits the country's excellent earthquake engineering and alert system. Experts here in Canada are working on rolling out a similar warning system in May.
For yesterday's earthquake, or early this morning in Taiwan, it provided in Taipei, the largest city, it provided about 15 seconds of warning.
By detecting the energy of the earthquake and then sending alerts to cell phones, radio, and TVs. Recovery efforts are now underway. According to the Consular General, there are 60,000 Taiwanese Canadians in Taiwan.
Those Taiwanese Canadians who return back to Taiwan, they are safe, but although they are really shocked by the natural disaster.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada has reached out to Taiwanese officials and is ready to provide support if needed. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
It was a dream vacation turned nightmare for 8 cruise passengers who say that their ship left them stranded on a small island off of Africa. The company says that they came back too late in response. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin has that story.
A mad dash for passengers to catch their cruise ship, triggering a 7-day ordeal.
We've flown, it's actually 7 countries we've been in 48 hours.
Jay and Jill Campbell and 6 other Norwegian cruise passengers were on a 21-day voyage up the coast of Africa. But last Wednesday, it all went wrong for the group after they left the ship for a private excursion to the African island country of Sao Tome and Principe, but didn't make it back by the 3 p.m. deadline. And the ship left without them, their passports handed to the local port agents. Even though the couple says the private tour operator notified the captain they were going to be late, and despite the Coast Guard's attempt to get them on the ship, which was still docked.
We truly believe that, although there's a set of rules or policies that the ship may have followed, they follow those rules too rigidly.
The passengers arranged to board again in Banjul, Gambia, traveling there on their own expense. But the cruise line says the ship couldn't dock due to weather. In a statement, Norwegian Cruise told NBC News, once the guests did not make it back to the ship, we worked with them and the local port agent to assist with obtaining the necessary visas for them to rejoin at the next available port, noting the group was an hour late when the ship initially left without them. Still, the Campbells telling the Today Show,
I believe that they really forgot that they are people working in the hospitality industry.
Tonight, the cruise line saying the unexpected adventure has been resolved. All 8 guests reboarding the ship this morning in Senegal.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 18/10 of a cent. The price of gold is down $6.50. Oil is up $1.16. Natural gas is down 7 cents. Aluminum is up $49. In Toronto, the TSX is down 60.67 points. Venture Index is down 6.00. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 530.16, and Nasdaq is down 228.38. Still ahead, a missing cat was found after a 2-week span. Welcome back. Now for a discovery that defied the odds. A missing pregnant cat lost at the Ottawa airport has been found nearly 2 weeks after she disappeared in the parking garage. CTV's Leah LaRocque now on the cat that did come back.
It's been one incredible journey for Athena the cat. 12 days in the making, with an ending that many thought impossible.
She's a survivor, like fabulous survivor, boy. She's got some, yeah.
The pregnant cat was rescued from a dumpster in Winnipeg, on her way to Ottawa for vet care, but she escaped her carrier in the airport parking garage, missing since March 21st. A few days ago, an employee working near the fuel tanks spotted her.
But he didn't know about her at that time. And he went home, told his wife, and said there was a cat there, blah, blah, blah. And she said, that's Athena.
Ending trapper Janice Richards' search.
And so he put out a trap with sardines, and he went to look, and he had her.
After Athena's vet visit, she'll then go into foster care where she will have her kittens safely. And when they're old enough, all of them will be adopted.
You know, we're so grateful to everyone at the airport, all the employees who, were spreading the word and keeping an eye out. It was an amazing group effort.
Come say hi.
After 12 days, the little cat is doing well, considering her ordeal, but is very hungry and very thirsty.
It's kind of a desolate landscape out there, very windy, cold. There's been sightings of coyotes and other predators on the grounds as well, so really miraculous that she made it.
We got a baby right there, yeah.
After some food and cuddles, Athena is now catching up on sleep. Well earned for this pretty tough mom-to-be.
Thanks for making me run all over the place. Thanks for keeping me awake for 12 days. And thank you that you went into the trap, sweetheart. Yeah. And good luck. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Leah LaRocque, CTV News.
BC's new seniors advocate used the recent declaration of National Caregiver Day to point out flaws to help those who have the roles of family caregivers. Dan Levitt, who recently replaced Isabel McKenzie, said this labor of love provided for seniors by family members is generally unseen and unpaid, while also often undertaken by women. He next said a commonly overlooked support is the caregiver tax credit, intended to create additional tax savings for those helping their loved ones at home. Levitt last said the expansion of that eligibility for the tax credit would go a long way to supporting caregivers and ensuring their emotional, physical, and financial contributions get better recognized. RCMP are investigating an assault that occurred at Kent Institution, a maximum security federal institution near Agassiz. Correctional Service Canada said the incident occurred on March 29th and sent one injured prisoner to an outside hospital for treatment. It says a number of suspects have been identified and no one else was injured. Correctional Service of Canada says it'll take appropriate measures to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin. Thanks for watching.